Welcome to the Copperfield Electric Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So imagine pouring, I don't know, $150,000 into this gorgeous magazine cover kitchen renovation.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Right. The marble countertops are in. The custom cabinets are perfectly aligned. The fresh paint is completely flawless. You move in and you were just thrilled.
Natural.
But then the very first time you try to run your new high-end microwave and, say, your central air conditioning at the exact same time.
Half the house goes completely dark.
Exactly. A breaker trips.
Yeah.
And suddenly your dream kitchen is just this frustrating, unlivable headache.
It is the ultimate nightmare scenario for a property owner. I mean, we tend to fixate on the visible finishes, the countertops and cabinets.
Right, the pretty stuff.
Exactly. But it is the invisible infrastructure, the wires, the panels, the circuits, that dictates whether a space is actually functional or just deeply flawed.
Which is exactly why the mission of today's deep dive is to give you, the listener, a shortcut to being completely well-informed. We are extracting the absolute must-ask questions you need to have answered before breaking ground on literally any new construction electrical work.
Because you really want to be armed with this knowledge early.
Yeah, to avoid costly changes, massive delays, and serious safety hazards during your building projects.
Because the golden rule of construction is pretty simple. Once the drywall goes up, fixing a mistake becomes, well, exponentially more expensive.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Planning is practically free. Retrofitting is a fortune.
So to help us navigate this, we are pulling from two fantastic sources today. First, there's this incredibly insightful article by Renee Hernandez titled Blueprint for Success, Essential New Construction Electrical Planning.
It's a great piece.
It really is. And second, we are looking at foundational materials from Copperfield Electric, which is a family-owned 24-hour electrician service.
Right.
They cover Southern California and Orange County, and they are the ones actually responding to those nightmare scenarios we just talked about.
And having that ground level perspective is just vital. I mean, theory is one thing, but seeing what actually fails in the real world, that changes how you plan entirely.
Right. And just to put their experience in context, Copperfield Electric is running emergency calls and new builds everywhere, from Irvine up to Anaheim and Fullerton.
That's a huge area.
Yeah. Over to Santa Ana and Orange, down the coast through Huntington Beach, Newport Beach, Costa Mesa, and Laguna Beach, and all the way inland to Mission Viejo and Tustin.
Wow.
Because they have this massive 247 footprint, they are often the ones showing up at 2 in the morning when someone's poor electrical planning finally gives out.
What's fascinating here is that people often view electrical work as incredibly simple. Just running a copper wire from point A to point B and plugging it into a plastic box.
Right, like plugging in a lamp.
Exactly. But electrical systems are essentially the invisible nervous system of any modern building.
I love that analogy.
Yeah. If the central brain, which is the panel, and the nerve endings, the outlets and switches, aren't designed to communicate properly under heavy stress, the entire body fails.
And poor planning early on doesn't just mean, like, you lack an outlet next to your nightstand.
Right. It means overloaded circuits, potential fire hazards, and construction timelines that get completely derailed because the whole sequence of building is thrown off.
Okay, so let's unpack this sequence, because that brings us to the first major hurdle. Before you can even think about running those wires or, picking out fancy smart switches, you have to establish the foundation of the project.
The who and the when.
Exactly. The Hernandez article brings up this first crucial question. Who is actually doing the work? Now, let me push back on this for a second.
Sure.
If I'm building a house and I hire a general contractor, or I just call a local guy with a van who says he's an electrician, isn't that enough? I mean, wire is wire, right?
It is absolutely not enough, and that is a very common trap people fall into. The source is highly specific on this point.
Okay, so what's the requirement?
You must hire a licensed electrical contractor with specific, demonstrable new construction experience.
Ah, new construction specifically.
Yes. Fixing a broken outlet or swapping out a ceiling fan in a 30-year-old house is a troubleshooting skill. Designing and installing a comprehensive power grid for a brand new structure entirely from the dirt up.
That's a whole different ballgame.
Exactly. It's an engineering and project management skill. They're completely different disciplines.
So relying on just a handyman or a purely residential repair electrician for a new build is like, well, it's like having an orchestra with no conductor.
That is a perfect way to put it.
Think about a busy construction site. You've got framers putting up the wooden skeleton, plumbers running pipes, HVAC technicians installing massive metal ducts.
And drywallers waiting to seal it all up.
Right. If someone isn't managing the daily schedules and coordinating the workers, the drywall goes up before the electrical wires are fully run.
And that leads directly to the when of the project, which is question 6 in the Hernandez article. Electrical work in new construction doesn't happen in one big push.
It's broken up.
It happens in very strict, highly regulated phases. First comes what the industry calls the rough-in, or rough wiring.
Okay, so what exactly does that look like?
Imagine the house when it is just wooden studs. No insulation, no walls.
Just the skeleton.
Right. The electrician comes in and drills hundreds of precise holes through those wooden studs to pull the cables. They mount the empty plastic boxes where the outlets and switches will eventually go.
Okay, so it really is the skeleton of the system.
Yes. Then the city inspector has to approve it. Then the insulation goes in and the drywall is sealed. Much later weeks or even months down the line, during the finishing phase, the electricians return.
And that's when they put the actual plates on.
Exactly. That is when they strip the wires, attach the physical outlets, and hang the light fixtures.
So if your team isn't communicating, and you miss that crucial rough-in window before the insulation and drywall go up, you are literally trapped.
You really are.
You can't easily snake wires horizontally through a wall once it's stuffed with insulation and blocked by wooden studs. You'd have to tear down brand new walls.
Precisely. This is why having a reliable, credentialed team is non-negotiable.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The sources highlight that Copperfield Electric provides background-checked, licensed, bonded, and insured professionals. Their license number is 1094740 for reference.
Good to know.
When you have an officially credentialed team, you aren't just paying for labor, you are paying for project management. You are hiring that conductor you mentioned to ensure those exact phases are coordinated flawlessly with the other trades so your timeline doesn't collapse.
All right, so we've established the who and the when. We have the right team, the timeline is locked.
Moving on to the what?
Yeah. Because having the right people pulling the wires doesn't mean much if they are pulling the wrong size wire. The immediate next step is figuring out the sheer volume of power this new building is going to demand.
Right. Capacity and convenience.
Exactly. The golden rule from the Hernandez article is that you must plan for a minimum 200 amp electrical service.
And that 200 amp figure is really the absolute baseline for modern living.
Wait, hold on. I'm actually a bit confused by this.
Oh, how so?
Well, everywhere we look, appliances are bragging about being Energy Star certified, right? We've switched from old incandescent light bulbs to incredibly efficient LEDs.
True.
If everything in our homes is getting more energy efficient, shouldn't our homes be using less power? Why do we suddenly need a massive 200 amp service when older homes ran perfectly fine on 100 amps?
That is a brilliant question. It seems like a contradiction, doesn't it?
It really does.
The answer comes down to sheer volume. Yes, your individual refrigerator is more efficient than a fridge from 1990, but back in 1990, you didn't have a central air conditioning unit running all day. Oh, right.
Plus 2 home offices with multiple monitors, 3 smart TVs, a dozen smart speakers constantly drawing standby power, a high-capacity dishwasher, and a microwave all running simultaneously.
That is a lot of stuff when you list it out like that.
It is. The efficiency of individual devices has been completely eclipsed by the massive quantity of devices we now rely on.
Ah, okay. That makes complete sense. We have more efficient stuff, but we just have way, way more of it.
Exactly. To understand why 200 amps is critical, you have to look at the physics of how power is distributed. Think of your electrical service like a water pipe coming into your house from the street.
Okay, a water pipe.
If you only have a 100 amp service, you have a very narrow pipeline. If your air conditioning kicks on at the exact same moment your air fryer is running and someone else turns on a hairdryer,
the demand for water exceeds what that narrow pipe can deliver.
Exactly. The electrical system protects itself from overheating and catching fire by intentionally tripping the breaker, shutting down the power entirely.
Which is incredibly annoying. Very. A 200 amp service fundamentally widens that pipeline, allowing massive amounts of electricity to flow simultaneously without overloading the system.
So it's about preventing a traffic jam of electricity.
It's a great way to think of it.
Which actually leads perfectly into another vital concept from the source's dedicated circuits. Question 4 asks if you are planning for them.
Yes, and if the main panel is the highway, dedicated circuits are the HOV lanes.
Boy, I like that.
Large appliances like your refrigerator, your electric oven, your HVAC system pull a massive surge of power when their motors turn on.
Right.
If your refrigerator shares a circuit with your living room outlets, turning on a heavy vacuum cleaner could cause a traffic jam on that specific wire, trip the breaker, and suddenly your fridge is off and your food is spoiling.
And nobody wants that.
Yeah.
Dedicated circuits mean these heavy hitters get their own private lane directly back to the breaker box, completely isolated from the rest of the house.
Exactly. It protects the overall system from those localized failures.
And speaking of living room outlets, we have to talk about everyday convenience. The outlet strategy.
Oh, yes. The outlet strategy is huge.
I know we have all lived in that one older apartment where there is exactly one outlet per bedroom, and it's inevitably trapped behind the heaviest piece of furniture you own.
The dreaded daisy chain of extension cords, it's a classic, incredibly frustrating problem.
It is a nightmare, and frankly, it's a massive fire hazard. The force strongly emphasizes that kitchens, home offices, and living rooms require a high volume of strategically placed outlets.
You really have to visualize living in the space.
Yeah, you need to physically walk through the blueprints and say, the desk goes here, so I need an outlet here. The kitchen island is here, so I need power on the side of the island.
This is where we uncover a massive insight about construction costs. The cost of materials to drop an extra wire and add one more outlet while the walls are open during that rough-in phase is almost negligible.
Really negligible.
It is essentially the cost of a few feet of copper wire and a plastic box. But trying to fish a new wire through insulated drywall, patching the holes, retexturing the wall, and repainting it 5 years down the road.
Oh man, that sounds expensive.
That will cost you a fortune. In new construction, overplanning your electrical layout is actually a highly aggressive cost-saving measure.
Overplanning is cost-saving. I love that. Which transitions us perfectly into our next major theme, future-proofing and efficiency.
Yes, looking ahead.
Because raw power for today's gadgets is great, but a truly smart build anticipates tomorrow's technology. You want to build for tomorrow so you never have to tear open those newly finished walls we just talked about.
We are seeing a monumental shift in what people expect their homes and commercial spaces to do automatically.
And the future features are the fun stuff. The Hernandez article dives into question 5. Are you planning for smart home features?
Things like automated lighting controls, integrated security systems, built-in audio.
Yeah, and these things require specialized low-voltage wiring schemas that are incredibly complex to retrofit.
Because they often require dedicated communication cables running alongside the standard power cables, directly back to a central networking hub.
Right, and here's where it gets really interesting. The sources specifically highlight planning for electric vehicle, or EV, chargers, and solar panels.
That's a huge trend right now.
During new construction, doing what's called a rough-in for an EV charger is drastically cheaper than adding it later.
Let's explain what that rough-in actually entails mechanically.
Yeah, break that down for us.
If you wait until the house is finished, adding a level 2 EV charger, which charges a car in hours rather than days, might require cutting into the finished drywall of your garage. Or even trenching through the concrete foundation to run a thick, high-capacity wire from your main panel to the parking spot.
That sounds incredibly disruptive.
It is. But during construction, the electrician simply runs that wire through the open framing and caps it off in a blank box on the wall.
That's it.
That's it. Even if you don't own an electric car right now, spending a tiny amount of money to roughen that wire adds immense immediate value to the property.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, future-proofing isn't just about having cool gadgets. It is fundamentally about energy efficiency and long-term financial savings.
Absolutely.
For example, the Copperfield electric materials place a heavy emphasis on LED light-emitting diodes.
And the mechanics of why LEDs matter so much are fascinating. Traditional incandescent bulbs produce light by heating a tiny filament until it glows.
The old classic light bulb.
Right. It is incredibly inefficient because the vast majority of the electricity is wasted generating heat, not light.
Oh, sure. You touch one of those and it burns your hand.
Exactly. And fluorescent lights have their own inefficiencies and toxic materials. LEDs, however, convert electricity directly into light at a molecular level.
Wow.
They use a fraction of the power and generate almost no heat. By planning a system specifically around low-wattage LEDs, both residential and commercial clients see massive compounding energy savings month after month.
It's a total win-win. You use less power, your bill goes down, and your HVAC system doesn't have to work as hard to cool a room being heated up by old light bulbs.
That's a great point about the HVAC system.
And it's worth noting that Copperfield Electric actually specializes in exactly this kind of forward-thinking work.
They do.
Sources mention they handle these EV charger installations, the specific panel upgrades required to handle that massive EV power draw, and even the complex wiring needed for ADUs, or accessory dwelling units.
ADUs are a critical topic right now. They are basically entire independent houses, often called granny flats, compressed into a backyard footprint.
But why is wiring an ADU so complex? I mean, if it's just a small house in the backyard, can't you just run a wire from the main house and call it a day?
Absolutely not, and doing so is incredibly dangerous.
Really?
Yes, this comes back to our water pipe analogy. You are taking a property designed for one single family, and you are suddenly adding a second kitchen, a second HVAC system, a second water heater, and a second set of appliances.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's a lot of extra draw.
If you don't perform incredibly precise load calculations, you will overdraw the main property's electrical grid. The entire property will suffer from voltage drops, and the main breaker will constantly trip.
So you can't just piggyback off the main house.
No. You often need to upgrade the main panel or install a dedicated subpanel just to safely manage that secondary structure.
Wow. Okay, so you really can't just wing it. Which brings us to a stark reality. All this raw power, all these dedicated circuits, and all this future-proofing.
It is completely useless and potentially very dangerous if the house isn't built safely.
Safety is everything.
That brings us to the ultimate backstop of any construction project: building codes and professional integrity. The invisible shield keeping you safe.
Safety is the foundation that all of this convenience is built upon. The Hernandez article asks the third critical question: will the electrical work meet safety codes?
Which seems obvious, but people cut corners.
They do, and it is vital to understand why electrical codes even exist. They aren't just bureaucratic red tape meant to slow down your project.
Right. They are strict rules written in blood, designed to prevent fatal hazards.
They exist to stop your house from catching on fire.
Exactly. They dictate things like how many wires can safely be packed into a single junction box before they overheat, or requiring specific types of outlets near water to prevent electrocution.
The ones with the little reset buttons on them?
Yes, GFCI outlets. A professional contractor's primary job is to ensure every single local building code is strictly followed to prevent thermal events and arc faults.
And no one just takes the contractor's word for it, right? You don't just say, yep, it's safe, and walk away. There's an entire inspection gauntlet you have to run.
Absolutely. Inspections are the objective reality check woven into the construction timeline. A city or county inspector comes out at various phases. Most importantly, right after that rough-in phase we talked about, before the walls are closed.
So they can see everything.
Yes, they physically walk through the framing looking for stripped wire casing, improper grounding, or wires pulled too tightly around sharp corners.
And then they come back again.
Then they come back again at the final finish. Passing these phased inspections is the ultimate proof that the installation is completely safe. It is an independent verification that the invisible nervous system is healthy.
And this ties so beautifully back to Copperfield Electric's core business philosophy. The source material outlines their commitment to competitive pricing through what they call honest troubleshooting.
That's a great phrase.
They make a specific promise to only diagnose a problem if it truly exists.
Which is a profoundly important statement in the construction and repair industry.
Let's face it, most of us don't speak electricians. If a technician comes into our house, looks at a buzzing breaker box, sucks air through their teeth and says, oof, the whole panel is shot. You need a $5,000 replacement.
Yeah.
We have no choice but to believe them.
You're completely at their mercy.
We really are. Having an honest professional who will troubleshoot an issue down to a $10 faulty breaker without upselling you on phantom problems is invaluable.
And that honesty translates directly into your bottom line. It saves you money by avoiding unnecessary catastrophic repairs. Furthermore, Copperfield backs up this integrity with a 100% satisfaction guarantee and 247 emergency after-hours support.
And we know electrical emergencies do not respect normal business hours.
They never do.
If a main breaker fails at 2 in the morning on a freezing night, you are literally left in the dark without heat. Knowing that a reliable, honest team is available around the clock to physically show up at your property provides a level of security that goes far beyond just the initial construction phase.
It bridges the gap between building a space and actually living in it safely for decades.
So to bring this all together and recap our mission for you today, building a new home or commercial space doesn't have to be a nightmare of blown budgets, overloaded servants, and torn-up walls.
Not at all.
The blueprint for a stress-free construction project comes down to asking the right questions right up front. You must hire a licensed electrical contractor who can act as the dedicated project manager for the timeline.
And you absolutely must secure a 200 amp service minimum to handle the sheer volume of modern life.
Yes, you must insist on dedicated circuits to act as HOV lanes for your heavy appliances, isolating them from the rest of the house.
And you need to aggressively future-proof. Drop the extra wires for outlets now, roughen the conduit for EV chargers and smart tech today, because overplanning is the ultimate cost-saving measure.
And above all, ensure every single wire adheres strictly to safety codes through phased independent inspections.
It is about engineering a system that serves you safely today and has the capacity to adapt to whatever technology brings tomorrow.
Exactly. And whether you are breaking ground on a massive new commercial warehouse, renovating a kitchen, or adding a complex residential ADU in your backyard, a team like Copperfield Electric is ready to step in.
They really are.
As they say, they're there to take care of the lights so you can focus on whatever else you need to do to get your project across the finish line.
You know, this raises an important question. As we move toward a world of hyper-connected, fully electrified homes with their own EV chargers, battery walls, and smart grids, will the electrical panel of the future act less like a simple breaker box and more like a home's central brain managing energy actively?
Oh, wow.
And if so, how much further will our modern electrical codes have to evolve to keep up?
Man, that is a fascinating thought to chew on. The walls are only going to get smarter, and the nervous system is only going to get more complex. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We highly encourage you to take these essential questions, write them down, and bring them to the table for your next big project. Remember, the electrical system is the invisible foundation of your building. Make sure you have the right people bringing it to life. Stay curious, and we will catch you next time.